Hey everyone, it's Carter King. If you're an educator, a leader, or just a parent who wants to teach kids about space, check out my newest book, Carter's Journey Through Space. It's available now on Amazon, Target, and bookstores everywhere. Come explore the universe with me.
Welcome to another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle King, and the goal of this podcast is simple: to help you create environments where people thrive. Through real conversations, practical strategies, and powerful stories, we equip leaders, educators, and change makers just like yourself to build cultures rooted in purpose, performance, and authenticity. Because culture isn't something you talk about, it's something you live. This is the Contagious Culture Podcast. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle King, and the goal of this podcast is simple: to help you create ecosystems and environments where people thrive. I'm joined today by my amazing friend, colleague, and mentor, Natalie Brown. She is the head of strategic workforce partnership at Ally Financial. And Natalie, man, she holds so many titles, but she's a seasoned executive with over 15 years of experience across corporate social responsibility, community impact, workforce development, and strategic philanthropy. Her career has centered on building the kind of partnerships that connect business goals, community priorities, and real opportunities for people. And at Ally, she helps align many of these priorities with long-term team strategy, with external pipelines, educational initiatives, and industry relationships to help build a stronger baseline, future-ready workforce. But she's an amazing human being. She's a person that leads with integrity, leads with heart, and is somebody that I trust so much. Natalie, my friend, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm amazing. I'm so amazing, and I'm so excited for this conversation. And I know for the last 15, potentially 2 decades, you've been leading. You've been running, and you hold a lot of titles. But I don't think a lot of times we get the chance to really understand the person. So
hmm
my first question for you today is, who is Natalie?
Oh, I am an only child from Greensboro, North Carolina, and a product of an amazing family, and have the honor to raise two beautiful daughters, teenagers. Well, one's college and one's about to graduate high school next year, and have an amazing husband. But the person that I am is I'm a servant leader. I'm a connector, and that is how I was raised. That is who I've always been. I'm an extrovert for the most part, but I have my moments where I need my time to me. Being that only child, you like to have your me time. But I think more than anything, I'm a giver. I love to give back to the community. I love to serve, however I can serve. I find joy in connecting people to whatever goal or success that they're looking for. So for that, I mean, that's really who I am. But I think one of my favorite titles is being a mom, and seeing my girls just soar the way they're soaring right now.
You have a very busy schedule because you wear a lot of personal hats and professional hats. You sit on a lot of boards. But, I think there's a beauty of a lot of the things that we get to do within our communities, especially within the social impact space, with everything that's going on, with all of the hats that you wear. What's keeping you excited these days, and what's continuing to add the fuel to your fire to keep doing this work?
Well, I get real excited when I see the next generation start to find their purpose or find, their path. The work that I do around strategic workforce partnerships allows me the opportunity to connect with young leaders through some of those partnerships. And many of them stay in my inbox or my LinkedIn box, and to see the paths that they're creating for themselves, to see their grit and their, the goals that they're putting in front of them really inspires me that the work that we're doing is work that is truly meaningful and that we're helping to prepare that next generation of leaders. And for me, that I get really excited about that because
Yeah.
I'm on the back nine of my career. So I want to make sure that, we continue to open doors for those young folks, and that these young leaders are able to walk through these doors and be successful. Knowing how to navigate various situations, knowing how to navigate their career, and
Yeah.
also being able to pay it forward to them to help them in that journey.
When I hear the term strategic workforce partnerships, I often think of the terms of corporate or board. Can you talk to us about how you would define strategic workforce partnerships to be able to really make it more practical and human for our listeners listening in?
Absolutely. Strategic workforce partnerships for us here at Allied is really about connecting with organizations that are helping to drive a talent pipeline of future ready leaders for us. And so some of those partners that we partner with, the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, Hiring Our Heroes, Disability In, Alpha, these are partners that from an early talent to professional talent are organizations that are building professional development. They're providing access and exposure and opportunities to the students within their footprint to thrive and to connect with companies and become employees of those companies. And so for us, we're building our strategy with those workforce partners in alignment with our talent acquisition strategy as well, right? We are trying to find the best and the brightest to come and be employees at Ally, and in doing so, it's also an opportunity for us to give back and to provide, as a part of their programming, we're able to do things like financial education with some of their students. We're able to get in front of them and get on panels and talk about our career experiences. And so those are things that we get really excited about, and why,
Yeah.
those workforce partnerships are so important, because it's an ecosystem of support,
Of
not
course.
just, paying for the sponsorship.
It's interesting because your work sits at the intersection of, I see that talent development and then the
Mhm.
strategy, but then also building that community as well. What does a meaningful partnership look like? And then how do you actually go about developing and building that over a period of time?
Well, I think a meaningful partnership starts with a mutual understanding of what the goals and outcomes are of that partnership,
Yeah.
right? And from that, underlining them, us understanding what their expertise are, what our goals are, and marrying that together along with building a trusting relationship, I think is something that really makes for a successful partnership. I'll use one in particular, the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. We've been partners with them for over a decade. Over that time, we've deepened our partnership with them because we have goals that are mutually aligned. And with that, we've also built a significant program, signature program with them that has yielded over 1 million in scholarships. Over
Wow.
350 students have come through that program. And many of those students, some of them still work here, some of them are still connected with us. And what I have found is we've continued to deepen that relationship with them with some of the other professional development and student programs that they have. And so for us, they are an organization that we truly have connected with. And the same with Alpha, another organization with, we go to their conference and there's like 5,000 people there, professionals and students. And we have the opportunity to connect and to understand and, to have cultural experiences with all of our partners. Hiring Our Heroes is another great one that I mentioned earlier, right? And we really want to make sure that those programs and those partnerships are longstanding with us. We're not in it just for give us the talent. It's what can we also share with your organization as well as what you can share with us.
I was having a conversation, what was this last week, with an accounting firm based here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And they were talking about one of their biggest gaps was pipeline, where there's not a lot of college students that are going into the accounting profession. And there's a pipeline gap in turning these college students or even people into potential future accountants. When you think about the talent challenges, especially with a woman that's worked within corporate America for so long, what can we do though, as leaders, as companies, as community builders, to really better prepare these students for the opportunities that exist, not just now, but the opportunities that will exist in the future?
Absolutely. I mean, I think when we think about looking at talent, we have to think about the ecosystem of talent, right? We have to think about the students that are coming out of college are going to learn the academia part of the work. But now, as they're transitioning into corporate America, for example, we've got to teach them some of the soft skills. We've got to continue to teach them other skills that are important to them being successful in the workplace. Getting a mentor, understanding the performance process and performance management process. So really trying to incubate these students to understand, like, hey, beyond what you learned in accounting too, uh,
Yeah.
once you come in here, it may look a little different. The mechanics might be the same, but there are all these other things that are important for you to be successful. Building a network, having great leaders, and a great board of directors to support you along your way. And so I think when we're thinking about talent and when we have these partnerships, those are the types of things that we want to do. We also connect very closely with our corporate citizenship team, teaching students around financial education, because you're going from an hourly job or internship to now a salary, right?
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that you know that you need to have a 401k and all the things that you may or may not get taught at home. We want to make sure you're set up for success.
I was asked the question last Tuesday when I spoke at the University of Maryland to a group of soon-to-be college graduates going into the financial or the corporate America in a sense. And one of the students asked, with the rise of AI and a lot of the jobs are not as available, what would you recommend for us students to be prepared and be competitive after school? So I'd like to get your answer on that as somebody in the trenches and actually building these programs as well, with the rise of AI and all of these fears around AI and how it's moving jobs out. What could our students do to prepare and be best equipped to be competitive in the workforce?
Yeah, I was having a conversation recently about this, and someone said that their position was AI may not replace your job, but you need to know how to use AI to be effective in your job, right? So it may not take the place of the position that you hold, but you need to be able to figure out how to use AI within your position. So I think students now more than ever need to understand how to use AI effectively, in a way of understanding how to prompt, understanding what those prompts give you, being able to decipher if the information is truly truth or is it giving you just a group of information, and then you've got to figure out what's factual and what's not factual, right? So
Yeah.
you've got to really understand how to prompt it so you can get the root of what you're looking for. I think that's very important. I mean, even someone like myself who's been working for over 30 years, it's learning AI, right? I'm
Yeah.
learning how to prompt. I'm learning how to make sure I can say the right things to get the outcome that I'm looking for, other than just rewrite this statement for me, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You need to put the tone in there. You need to, who's the audience? So all those things I think are important. And students need to learn how to use it within the function of the job that they're in. And I think if they do that, they're set up for success. It's a skill that everyone's going to have at some point.
I really, I love you all at Ally. You know this. I feel like I'm a part of the family at this point. And I love that you all really implement the work that you talk about online. It's not
Mhm.
just, it's not just copy. It's not just marketing. Like, you really breathe and bleed the work that you're doing. And I can see these partnerships evolving in the companies and the nonprofit organizations that are really benefiting from the work that you're doing. What are you seeing, Natalie, just in the industry? Why don't partnerships work? And what are some of the pitfalls? What are some of the mistakes that companies have made or are making that don't allow them to really be as impactful as you all have been in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have an aligned value system with whoever we partner with. So I think in our either sports marketing or in community, there's a shared value system that we have, and we have shared goals of what we're trying to accomplish and what we're trying to elevate. And so, you know, we've made lots of amazing commitments in the community in various areas, whether it's on the banking side with no overdraft fees, to our commitment to spend the same amount of marketing dollars on women's sports as we do on men, or our community impact that we're making across the country. But all of that, really, if you peel the onion back, it is about who we are as a company and our core values, our lead core values, as we call them. And our focus forward approach to ensure that we are, one, meeting the needs of our consumers, our employees, and our stakeholders. And when you have relationships or partners that are coming together for a shared goal or outcome, if you're all on the same page and you partner with each other, right? I think that's the operative. Is it's a partnership that is also a relationship that can continue. And so, as I mentioned earlier, some of the partners we have on the workforce side, these are relationships. Like, we know these individuals who have been assigned to our account. We have very direct dialogue, and not everything is rosy, right? But there are some times where we're negotiating. There are times where we're saying, listen, this is not a priority for us. But I think when you have a really strong relationship, you can have those conversations, and because everybody has the same outcome, right? Everybody wants the same outcome. And I think that's where sometimes it breaks down with relationships between partners and companies. The other thing, from a community perspective, I'll say, we started what we call trust-based philanthropy some years ago during COVID, when COVID first hit. And that really is, from a community piece, of building a trusting relationship between a funder and a nonprofit, especially with grassroots organizations that don't typically get in front of big funders. And so those types of commitments that we make as a company, I think, demonstrate who we are, and that we want to make sure that folks that may not be the bigger nonprofits, but the smaller ones, can still succeed and do the impactful work they're doing in the community by having a strategic partner with them alongside them.
You've definitely been somebody that has sowed not only just your heart and wisdom into me, but strategy for us to really be able to implement within the business, and has allowed us to really be able to help nonprofit organizations throughout the country. You, Reggie, Logan, all of your team has really been essential in us really being able to grow some major impact within the city. But I'd love to know, like, who has been that leader that has led you, that has mentored you, that has given you a piece of advice, or has opened you up to a new perspective in your career, that and what was that advice that they gave you as well?
Oh gosh, so many. So many. I have so many leaders that have given me just amazing advice. I'll pick a couple leaders. I'll pick two that resonate. One is James Jackson. He is a former leader at Bank of America. He ran the Southeast region of our consumer bank. And he said to me one day, when I was looking to get into a community role, he said, leverage your power. There's power in the network of people that you know, and you need to leverage that. And I have taken that as like one of the best pieces of advice, because when he said to me, leverage your power, whether that's in relationships, whether that's in other connections you're making, there is, in the work that I was trying to do at that moment in time of, getting that job, it was the network that was so important for people to know that I wanted to pursue that in my career. So I've passed and carried that on. Another leader who I think, I always think about when it comes to performing at your highest level and being excellent, and that is Keith Cockrell. And I remember Keith, and he working at Bank of America years ago, and being involved with him, and even now in the community, and seeing him speak and things like that. Excellence is always something that he would share that we don't have the luxury not to do. And so he's been a phenomenal leader. And then I think, of course, I'm going to personally say, my mother has been someone to watch. She worked in the public sector, but she also owned two businesses. And so the tenacity and the perseverance in watching her over the years, and even today, how she's committed herself. And I mean, she's 80 years old, but I call her Super Delta because she is still working hard for Delta Sigma Theta sorority in her chapter, and watching her commit and watching her dedicate herself to the community and giving back is something, and always saying, Natalie, we have to pay it forward, too much is given, much is required, right? And so, just knowing that, and having that foundation, growing up as a child, I mean, she's probably my number one mentor as well as mom. So.
Of course. And no, I love it. And, I definitely think that your network and ensuring that you're performing with a sense of excellence is necessary. And, as you go through your career, you learn so many different things. You end up embodying or evolving and having all of these different leadership traits. When you think of your journey, or even the next generation of leaders growing and evolving, what is the one trait that you believe that far is more necessary to have than any other one?
Well, I think you have to build relationships, right? To me, you can put your head down and do the work, but if no one knows who you are when they get in that room to talk about you in talent planning, then that's all you're known for is the work, and not if you have the ability to lead. And so I think it's a combination of performing at the highest level in the work that you're doing, but building the right relationships and networks that are going to help you succeed so that people know you. When people know you, people trust you. And when they trust you and they see your work, then they can trust that you can lead even further in your career. And I think that is important. So I say it's more than one, it's two things, right? You got to do the work. You got to perform at the highest level, but you have to build relationships so that people can get to know you and trust who you are and trust that you can lead the right way.
I've heard that one statement so many times, and I really feel like I started to embody it thanks to my mom early. I think my sophomore year in college, I really started to get good at understanding who are the types of people, how can I build, because I think it's easy to find them, but nurturing those relationships, it takes more of a skill and a curiosity and a compassion for people. Could you talk to people about how do you go about building the relationships? Who are the types of people? How do you nurture those relationships, and why it's so important as well?
Yeah, I think one, you got to seek them out. And, listen, there have been times where early in my career, I met with someone who made a connection for me, and they're like, oh, they might be a good mentor. And then I had that one-on-one, and it was like, we don't align. That might not be the right person. Okay, I'm going to the next, right? I mean, it's seeking out those that you have a common interest in. Maybe it's something you read on their LinkedIn page. Maybe it's something they said that inspired you. And then it's consistency. So if I'm going to reach out and say, hey, I'd love to get some time on your calendar, then get the time on the calendar. But if you think this person would be a good mentor for you, ask them to mentor you. But then you as the mentee have to be consistent to stay on their calendar. It is not up to the mentor to seek you at that point. It's really up to the mentee to build the time with the mentor to make the relationship stronger. And I say that because mentoring can be a two-way street, but I think the mentee is who is they're the flame that they're the ones that are lighting the flame for that relationship, right? So you got to keep the lighter on, because depending on the level of seniority, that person might be extremely busy. I have a young man here at Ally. He stays on my calendar once a month. He's like, I don't have much to talk to you about today, but I do have one question. And he will come prepared with a question. And what I love about that is he's thinking about his career. He's thinking and respecting my time, and he's receiving the advice that I'm giving him. And he's coming back and saying, oh, let me tell you what I did. I have another young man who's not even at Ally. He has his own book about young professionals. And Tim Nurse gets on my calendar, at least once a quarter or at least 2 or 3 times a year to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what's happening with me professionally. And this is what's happening to me personally. I just want to keep you updated. I love that. And I love watching the things that he's doing in the community, watching him on LinkedIn, what he's doing in his day job, and how he's serving youth with giving them professional advice through his book. He's an author now and speaking. And so I think it is building a relationship, and it's consistency. And if you're consistent with it, I always tell students, build your board of directors. You have peers on that board of directors. You have people who are more senior than you. You may have college students or high school students on your board of directors that keep you grounded. And so build your board of directors and let those folks be the ones that help guide you.
I think that a lot of times, especially in thought leadership, we get asked very similar questions. When I go on podcasts, I know a lot of the questions that will come up. And you sit on panels, you give speeches, you have mentees and all of these different things. Hey, it's Kyle. Sorry to interrupt your programming, but I got a quick culture check for you. How's your team's energy right now? I mean, literally, right now. Are people feeling inspired? Or are they just showing up? See, here's the truth. Culture doesn't change because we talk about it. It changes because we live it actively every single day. And that's what I help organizations do. Build contagious cultures that people actually want to be a part of. Through keynote talks, interactive trainings, and hands-on consulting, I help leaders transform the way their teams connect, perform, and grow. So if your culture needs a little bit of spark, let's light it up together. Visit theculturelab.org, again, theculturelab.org, or connect with me directly on LinkedIn at Kyle S. King to learn more about how we can work together. Because remember, your culture is contagious. Make it worth catching. Now let's get back to the program. And there's oftentimes we don't get to really talk about the things that are really burning in our heart because people don't really think to ask those questions. So I'd love to know, what is a question that you would hope or wish that someone asked you that you really got the opportunity to share because it's so important to you?
I think one of the things that I think folks should ask me is when I look over my career, would I do anything differently? And that sounds simple because most of the times you get that question. Yeah. And my answer is no. And my answer is no, because every job that I had, from my first job in Ohio at Honda all the way to this job today, something has prepared me for the next job. And even through the ups and downs and trials and tribulations of my career, because we all have them, like nothing wasn't all easy. It wasn't easy living in, a remote area of Michigan as a young Black female, right out of like 2 years out of school. But I learned a lot in the work, and I learned a lot about myself in that process. And so I think, and sometimes people do ask that question is, what would you do differently? But I see that as a question to say, my different is to do it again and do it better. My different isn't to do it differently in the context of different. It's, if I could do it over again, I'd just do it better. I would have taken the time to learn my craft after 5 p.m. That's not good. Just leave work at 5 because everybody left work and then I go home and watch TV, right? I would have invested more time. But to me, I do it again though, and just do it better.
I want to expand on that. I have a thought. You gave it to me. This is interesting, and I'd love to hear how you would workshop the different stages. So every role, you said, essentially helped you propel or become prepared for the next role, essentially. Could you walk me through just a 90-second, like when you think about your role at Honda to where you are now? Maybe not each role, because we may have tons of roles, but each stage, what was the thing that happened and what did you learn? Just so that our listeners could really see the real evolution of where you've become and all of those small things that had to happen to be able to get you to where you are.
Yeah. So my first 4.5 years out of school was, my first decade was supply chain, but that first 4.5 years was manufacturing. And it's a grind in manufacturing. So what I learned very quickly is you got to learn fast.
Yeah.
The line didn't stop. And every car coming off the line or every, office piece of office furniture coming on is money.
Yeah.
And so I learned the grit that is needed in corporate America to be successful, along with the intangible skills of understanding as a young woman of color the microaggressions that you have to overcome and pick and choose your battles, right? Just because someone says something about your hair doesn't mean there's anything nefarious about them saying something about your hair. You know what I mean? Or not being too sensitive to, and sometimes using it as an opportunity to educate people about your culture per se, or your school, right? I went to a HBCU, and not many folks where I worked in those first 5 or 6 years went to HBCUs. I think the second phase of my career, when I moved into more of the banking space, what I learned really early when I first started when I was at 26 years ago, when I was first started at B of A, was the power of the network. That I didn't realize that early on, like that part of relationship building, engagement into activities like employee resource groups, being seen and a part of things that aren't necessarily your day-to-day job, but important for you to build skill sets, was not something that I knew early on, but learned really quickly when I got there, right? By watching and observing and seeing. And then, as I moved into my career, I moved into a space of understanding what jobs made sense for who I am as a person and my personality, and where did I thrive in the jobs that I had. And so then I had to have that kind of come to Jesus moment in my career, like, where's my path going? And that's when I really locked in to say, my path is either on a track of CSR and corporate social responsibility, or I'm in an HR track, because that's where I thrive. And so that's where I really learned to play to my strengths.
Yeah.
And
that's
so
interesting. That's so interesting. And it's interesting because I did this the other day. I actually wrote down like all of the different things that I've done and how all of these skills have transferred over. Because it's interesting now, and when you start running a business and when you start evolving just into leadership, you have to pull from a lot of the things that you've done throughout your whole career. Like all of those things are so necessary.
Yes.
Natalie, I'd love to know, and I always ask this question, there's a lot of times in life, what I call your slingshot moments, those things that pull you back, whether it's a heartbreak or a loss where you had to grieve personally, whether it's something that happened professionally, whether it's just something that humbled you. And I recognize that moment pulled you back to really propel you into the person, the professional, and just the human being that you are today. What was that slingshot moment in your life or in your career that helped you become the person that we know today?
Ooh, listen, I probably have 5 stories around. A lot of slingshot moments. Listen, I think being in a space where, I'll just say 2 moments. I think when I went to the utilities industry, different culture. So being in the banking culture for 16 years and then utilities industry for 18 months, it was a culture shock for me. It was different. It was a significantly different culture, to the point where I had to figure out how to course correct, and find ways to assimilate differently, but stay authentic to who I am. I think the second thing I'd say, leaving the CSR space early on in my career was a blessing and a curse for me in some ways, that I was having baby number 2. So I missed some nights with baby number 1. And the organization was changing. And so it was just a different need. And so I went on maternity leave and came back to something different. It was a little disheartening, but I think to me, it was like, you know what? It'll come around again, right? Like I'm still early in my career. There's some other skill sets I can learn that will help me be even better when it comes around again. And I think, and it did. And I think, I'm all the more better for it. So I think when you have these moments where your career or personal setbacks, or what I would say, unforeseen challenges, you've got to find the positive in them. And I always say, my motto one of them is, I let go and let God. And so, that's kind of how I lean into my personal, but I also lean into my career that way. And then, sometimes you have those moments where you're like, well, I can show you better than I can tell you, right? I'm just, I'm just keep being great and excellent. So whatever I do. And so those moments, right, when you're having those setbacks in your career, there's a lesson in there for you to learn. And so get it and then soar, like then jump that hurdle and keep moving. You can't sit and swallow in it because it's not going to help you. I'll tell you a quick story. When I was in auto manufacturing and I was a buyer for the parts, for that particular vehicle, they switched me with another buyer who was on the MRO side, who was doing janitorial and safety items and the non-core manufacturing parts. And I was heated about it. Like I didn't want to move. I wanted to quit. I wanted to go home. My mother was like, girl, if you don't get back to that job that's paying you, And what I realized was that after, later, it was a different skill set that I was getting ready to get to put in my toolbox, and it strengthened. And so now, we're doing a plant expansion and I get to negotiate a multi-million-dollar construction deal. I wouldn't have been able to do that over at this job. So it put more tools in my toolbox, not even knowing that was a blessing that was to come. So sometimes you don't realize why the move happens, but if you just let go, let God, he will open the right door for you, and I got a ton of stories like that, but I think that one in particular, I've told to students before, like, hey, I was heated. I did not want to go back to work. I wanted to quit. Like, how dare you move me and switch me and didn't even tell me, kind of deal. And it's like, girl, I don't have to tell you anything. No, you work for them,
Literally.
It was great.
There's a humility and a dying of the ego that has to happen as you evolve. And I'm reading this book called A Man's Work by Connor Beaton, and it talks about that, personal development is not adding more, it's unbecoming, it's simplifying, it's decomposing of these things that you once did and how you used to exist to be able to become the person that you're being called to become. And I think that's so necessary. Natalie, you've talked a lot about family. Your faith and your mentorship, your community. And I appreciate that so much because I hear a lot about people having to either do this or that. Either I'm choosing career and my family will have to wait later, or I'm choosing family and my career will have to wait later. But you've found a beautiful way to be able to build them both at the same time. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about how you did it? What were some of the practices and boundaries that you had to set to balance the things that were most important to you?
Well, listen, I just celebrated 23 years of marriage. And so having a good partner made a wealth of difference. I would say that it's, to me, family is always first. I had a manager tell me before I had children, she said, look, my husband is a state championship track coach. And at that time, he was, coaching and she said, look, you need to go to the track meets. You don't have children, but he's still family. Like, you need to go support. So if you need to leave early to go to the track meet, go. And I learned early on that, sometimes we forget our spouse as the family. We leave early for the children, but we don't leave early for the spouse's event.
Exactly.
And so now I can't say I go to a lot of track meets now, I promise you, but I'm there to cheerlead and support, and I constantly brag. But I will say, being grounded and making sure that, and that's what I saw growing up. Like, my mother was, all right, you coming with me to the rec center, when she used to run recreation centers. And I think when children come into play, that time is precious. And, I'm looking now at my soon to be 20-year-old and my other youngest turned 17 in January. And in one more year, she's out the house.
Wow.
And so she's going to college in 2027. And so it's like, wait, but the time has just flown by. You have to do that because you can't get those years back. I can get another job. I can't get another child. And so that part is you have to just prioritize. And for me, with the board work that I do, I've learned over time to say no when I need to say no. And I wasn't always good at saying no, honestly. I really wasn't. I was on way too many boards one time. And then I realized that I'm not being my best self. And so I came off many of them. So I'm a lot more picky now.
I love when I talk to my people because I'm so proud of them. Like 20 plus years of marriage, 2 amazing children, a life career that has been able to impact so many people. It's just so many things that I'm proud of for you. But I'd love to know, and I'd love to hear this. It always lights me up. Like, what are you most proud of? Like when you look back at your whole life, like what are you most proud of outside of being a mom, Natalie?
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, I feel that I've been extremely blessed. I have an amazing family from my bonus dad, my bonus mom, my, cousins' family, best friends, their families. Like, I do have a great ecosystem of support, right? And I shouldn't forget them because when my kids were little, they were my babysitters and, my best friends and their parents and stuff. So I think I'm most proud to have great family and friends, great brothers and sisters in the church that just are supportive and caring during the difficult times and, great in-laws. I mean, I can't say that, the people who I've surrounded myself with, and I've been very blessed, whether that's colleagues or, my personal network, they're all just amazing and all uplifting, right? I tease, like, I don't do girl drama. So I don't have girl drama in my life. And a lot of that is because, you receive what you give. And so I think, I'm very proud of who I am and who God has made me to be and how I was raised. Not that it was, all, grits and gravy. We all had some thorns and some things, but I think every challenge has been a learning opportunity. And I just feel very, very blessed.
I love that. What's next, Natalie? You have 60 seconds to talk to all of the listeners listening in right now that have heard your story, that have, been inspired, have been as intrigued as I am. Like, what's next for you?
Well, listen, I think what's next is, I'm excited and thrilled to be in this role that I'm in right now, where I can make impact by building, strategic partnerships that help drive talent into Ally. I'm really excited about that. I think it really aligns with Ally's Focus Forward strategy. We're disruptors at Ally. So, we are in the category of 1. Okay. Yep. and we're excited about that because when I think about what these students will gain coming here, there'll be more than just employees. There'll be customers, there'll be stakeholders. They will be a part of an ecosystem and a company that believes in culture. We believe in creating an environment of inclusivity and belonging. And I think in the role that I'm in now, it's purpose work for me, right? Yeah. I'm living my purpose that aligns with the purpose of the company that I'm working for. So I couldn't ask for anything other than that. and having the strategic workforce partners to be a part of that journey with us and bringing the best and the brightest here, I couldn't be more excited about. We've seen some of that and the success of that, hearing from students that were in Moguls in the Making, hearing from students that come to the conferences, that were in immersion programs that we've had. And we want to continue that work. And the partners that I have, my colleagues that partner with us, because this work isn't just done with just me and my team, but it takes a village to make it successful, and everyone else is excited about it. So we've kind of got a win-win mindset, win-win strategy here. And I think our culture is one that's right for us to move forward and be really extraordinary in the work that we're doing.
Natalie, I appreciate you so much. I always appreciate when I get to chat with you, learn from you. You share your heart and wisdom. You and you keep it real all the time. And I appreciate it.
I can't help it. I'm a Taurus.
No, definitely. What is the final thought that you'd love our leaders listening in to just take to be able to really encapsulate everything that we've talked about today?
Yeah, I think as a leader, continue to be your authentic self and pay it forward, right? Remember that I just sent a note to someone today who was a leader, and I counted as another mentor of mine on my board of directors. And I said, he's actively involved in the African American Leadership Academy, and I've gone through that. And I said to him today in an email, I was like, I'm so excited that he's involved because he's opened so many doors that I've been able to walk through. And I want leaders to continue to open doors for those coming behind us, right?
That's great.
And set the stage for them, help them, right? Help them overcome those barriers or help them avoid those pitfalls, and help them be great because someone did it for us. And so, throughout my career, I think it's led up to all of that. And I think it's, my purpose to continue to open doors and to be that servant leader and connector.
Natalie, how can we find out more about the work that you all are doing at Ally, and how can people get connected with you online?
At Ally, it's www.ally.com. Go into About Us. You can see all the things we're doing from a career and inclusion, our social impact. Certainly our CSR report is out there. Personally, I'm on LinkedIn, Natalie Brown. And so I think grabbing me on LinkedIn is really the best way to find me. And I'm excited to hear from your listeners and the info I can provide to them.
Natalie, I appreciate you, as always.
Yes, I'm so excited and proud of you. Oh, my goodness.
I appreciate you so much.
To Contagious Coachable Podcast. I love it.
This is amazing. It's been so much fun. It really has. If you're our listeners still listening in, please follow Natalie. Ask that question. Be courageous enough to reach out and ask the question that's been burning in your heart. Because it required one email, one connection in our network to connect us. And she's been able to transform my life, my company, my relationships so much. So please listen to the advice that she's given, the wisdom that she's given, and follow her journey. Every single thing, every conversation that you hear is a piece to be able to get you to the next thing that you're trying to do within your life. But as always, we always end with our listeners. One question we always ask you: what type of culture are you spreading? The energy you bring is the culture you create. Go make yours worth spreading. It's another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle King. We are here with the amazing Natalie Brown, and we will see you all next episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Contagious Culture Podcast. If this episode challenged or inspired you, hey, take a second to share it with someone who's building culture in their world. Make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps more leaders, educators, and change makers just like yourself join the movement. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or YouTube at Kyle S. King for more tips, tools, and methodologies to be able to help you create this ecosystem of absolute excellence. Until next time, lead boldly, live intentionally, and remember, your culture is contagious. Make it worth catching.